This is Community Forum. I'm Kurt Radel, Waycross Community Media. And with us today, we have Shaylal Holder joining us, who is the director. Now, let's talk about your organization, Table of Hope. Yeah. You started during the COVID incident, the pandemic and everything else. Why did you start then?
We did. It was right in the middle of the pandemic. We had been running a church for a while, and we needed to shut down. We had some people that were getting very sick. We had an older congregation at that time, and so we were kind of just looking for a way to serve. We felt that we needed to do something. We saw an impending situation where people were losing their jobs and not able to work. And so we saw a need, but we weren't exactly sure what to do. And so we visited some other organizations who were serving the community with food. So we visited some other organizations who were serving the community in food areas. And we weren't looking to do that. We weren't looking for that specifically, but a need landed in our lap, and we were able to pick that up and do that on the west side of Cincinnati.
Now, when you say the west side of Cincinnati, exactly what area are you covering?
Well, that's a big question. So we are on the west side of Cincinnati, and when we started, we were pretty local, just a few zip codes, but we've since grown, and we served over 96 zip codes last year. And so we don't really have a residential restriction at this time, and we're happy to be able to do that because it gives us a wider area that we can serve. So we are on the west side of Cincinnati, and the other organization that we kind of sister partnered with, they're more in the Mount Healthy area, and they had delivery drivers, but they weren't able to come over to the west side. That felt like a far way for them. And so we are generally Western Hills, Cheviot, White Oak, that kind of area, but we have people come from an hour away sometimes.
What's interesting about your background is that you come from extreme poverty. Mm-hmm. I know that had to have an impact on you.
It did.
Tell us about that.
I grew up with a single mother and 3 siblings in the home. She was uneducated. Didn't have I don't know a nice way to say that, but she did not have an education beyond 8th grade. She grew up in extreme poverty, and so it was just kind of a generational passing down. And so we joke, my sister and I always joke that we can make a 3-course meal out of a bag of potatoes and a jar of ketchup, which I didn't know that was going to come in handy for this, but it has. So yeah, we grew up in extreme poverty. I remember my mom writing bad checks to put food on the table.
Now, when you started the Table of Hope, you started under the umbrella of the New Hope Community Church.
We did.
That had to be a great partnership.
It is. I happen to be married to the pastor, so I had an in. That's always...
that's a good in.
Yes. I had a good in. The church has been really amazing in letting us use space there. We are completely separate. We're a completely separate nonprofit. We're funded separately and everything like that. So the church has not funded us, but they donated 2 classrooms, which was a huge help. For me to be able to rent that space would be hundreds, if not thousands of dollars a month to do that somewhere else. So to be able to do that in that space was a huge, huge help to us.
And when you started, you had really a basic start.
We did.
Crock pot meals and all that. And you ended up going with a drive-through. Tell us about that process.
So we started with crock pot meals. We would actually prepare the ingredients. So I think we started with 25 families.
So are you a good cook?
I am. Well,
okay.
Yes.
We'll say you're a good cook.
I am a good cook. So we would prepare all the ingredients, and we learned this from Ticoon Farms. This is how they did it. And so she gave us 25 names that needed to be served. And so my volunteers would come in, and we would chop onions and chop peppers and bag everything up. And I have a couple of older ladies, and they call themselves the Spice Girls. And they would
the Spice Girls.
The Spice
I like
Girls.
That.
Yeah.
Do they dance too?
Well, on occasion they do.
Okay.
So they put all the spices together in the little cups, and then all that gets assembled, and then we would have separate volunteers who would deliver those to those homes. And so that's how we started. And then we thought, well, we could do a little bit more. So we became an agency of the Free Store Food Bank, and we were able to get a little bit more inventory of food. And so then we started a drive-through. And so people would pull up, we'd prepare, we had volunteers show up on Thursday and they would put a bunch of boxes together. And then, so people would drive through, we'd hand them a box, drive through, hand them a box. And so that worked for about a year and a half through, as we were learning and growing. And so I believe the first year we served about 5,000 people that first year.
Well, tell me, how has it changed from the drive-through to where you are today?
Oh, quite a bit. Thankfully, we do have such a huge pool of volunteers. And so now people pull in to the lower parking lot, and then we have a volunteer down there. He's actually a 13-year-old boy. He's been with us for about 3 years. He's great. And he will guide up around to the top. And then we come into the front lobby, 3 or 4 at a time. They get signed in, they hang out. There's some coffee, pastries. We usually have refreshments for them in the lobby, and they can look at the bookshelf, the free bookshelf. And so then they get called in to shop. We actually have grocery carts, and so those 2 rooms have been converted into basically a grocery store. We have a freezer table, a refrigerator table, and they get to choose what they want, which really serves them with dignity. They're able to get what they need for their families as opposed to us just handing them what we have available. And so then they shop the stable, the food staples, the canned goods and things like that on the shelves. And then we have the bread section. So it's set up like a little grocery store. And then they get to the healthcare section and the cleaning section and things like that. And then fresh produce. We're very proud to have fresh produce. We actually also have a community garden. We started the 2nd year. And so we're in our 3rd year of the community garden, which has been really wonderful. And we're also having a program where we're going to have like a farm to table program where they can put their hands in the dirt, grow their own food, and then in the end of summer, we'll have a cooking class with what they've grown. So very excited about that also.
Let me ask you, where do you get your food items from?
Several places. The Free Store Food Bank primarily, and we do get some things there free, according to their name, but we do buy about 60% of our inventory from them. We purchase about 60%. And so we get it there. And then we also are partners with the Last Mile Food Rescue, which is a great organization locally. They get things from Chick-fil-A, McDonald's, UDF's, Kroger, so that's very helpful. I actually have a couple of community partners who like to remain anonymous. One lady uses part of her Social Security, and I have begged her, please don't spend anything that you don't have, but she has been a great partner. She provides us with female products and household cleaning things, and she just asked me this morning what she could stockpile, and I told her toothbrushes. So, and then I have another community partner who runs vending machines, and she'll just show up with a pallet of candy, which is always fun. So.
And recently you've partnered with Side by Side, and I know
Absolutely,
that has
yeah.
been a very good partnership
It has,
for you.
yeah, it has. They're wonderful. That's another great nonprofit. We get our books from them. We have a free bookshelf out in the lobby, and so that's always fun to see kids out there. I think the statistics on that are like 1 in 5 children don't have their own book in their home, and I remember being an adult before I bought my first book, and so that's very important to me as a reader. They also have recently been getting donations, and then they share the bounty. So they share cleaning products and things like that, which is always helpful. Those are very expensive, and when you're living in poverty, those are kind of extras that you may not have the income for, and so we're glad to be able to provide that.
Well, just a few moments ago, you talked about 5,000 people.
Yeah.
At a recent Co-Reign of Hope meeting that we are going to and everything else on a regular basis, you more than doubled that figure.
We did.
Tell us about that. That's a large number.
We did. So last year, I was just going over the numbers, we served over 12,000 people in 2023. Yeah, 12,000 people, individuals.
Now, with 12,000 people, I'm sure you're talking to them and everything else. Is it obviously because the economy, they can't find jobs? What are the reasons for that? Or they're just becoming more aware of you? What are the reasons that you believe that it's gone from 5,000 now to 12,000?
Yeah, a little of both, I think. I think it's the word's getting out about us. People are sharing with their friends and their neighbors, which I always encourage. I do think there's a greater need. People, and there's no typical guest. I think in the beginning there was some misconception about who it is that visits a food pantry. Essentially what we are, we call it the free food market, but essentially we're a food pantry. And so I think there's some misconception about who it is. And so we have an elderly lady who was doing just fine all her whole life, and her husband died, and she ended up living in her van. So I get a little emotional about that. There's so many people. Sometimes people just need us for a short amount of time, a couple of weeks. They just need to catch up.
Just to get over the hump.
Yeah, just to get over the hump. They've lost their job. They're starting a new job in a couple of weeks. And so I've been really surprised by that, about the variety and the just diversity of our guests, of who visit us.
Well, and also what's interesting is you talked about at the Colerain Hope meeting is that you were originally saying we'll have an hour.
Yeah.
And it's gone well beyond an hour of getting the food.
Yeah.
Sometimes up to 3-4 hours past.
That's true. So I always joke that we're only open an hour a week. And because technically that's what we put out. And on the calendar, that's what it says. But we serve until the line is gone. And most people know that. And so, and my volunteers, they're just amazing. We might get into this later, but they put in 40 hours a week. I've got about 40 volunteers and about 40 volunteer hours every week for that 1 hour a week, as we joke. So technically on the clock, on the calendar, that's what it says, 1 hour. But
well, when you're a nonprofit such as here at Waycross, we're always looking for people to be volunteers here, to learn how to shoot a program, to whatever it may be of our different programs that we have. And you cannot survive a nonprofit without having volunteers. Now, what about the age group?
Oh.
What is the age group of the volunteers range from?
Yeah, I think that's fun. I believe our youngest is 3, and
your youngest is 3.
Our youngest is 3, and she's there every week on Thursday morning. She actually was sick this morning, so she didn't make it today.
What is her role at 3?
At 3 years old, she unpackages, and we have this one little section. I was telling you about the vendor who brings me candy. That's her favorite part. She unpackages.
Does she take a candy?
She gets a treat every once in a while.
She gets a treat. Okay.
Yeah,
that's only fair.
We make sure she's paid well.
Yes.
She unpackages and fills that little cubicle there, and helps her mom. And she actually works the refrigeration table and passes out milk and cheese. And she's a good little helper.
So you go from 3 to what age?
I believe our oldest volunteer is 89.
So it's older than me, thank you.
Yeah, she's 89. And she also didn't make it today. That's a little unusual. But she came in Monday and worked. And so she's one of our Spice Girls. And she puts together the crock pot meals that still get delivered every week. And so she puts those together and with her team. And so, yeah.
I love the name, the Spice Girls.
The Spice Girls.
Recently, the Colerain Chamber of Commerce had their awards dinner, and you were up against 2 other very good candidates. Yeah. And guess what? You won.
I did.
Tell us about that. That was exciting. I was there that night. It was just a great moment.
It was. I still get emotional about that too.
Well, you won the Community Impact Award.
I did. We won the Community Impact Award. And even though I was the one there to accept the award, again, could not do it without the team of volunteers that we have.
What was their reaction when they found out that you won? Were they surprised, or I'm sure surprised, but also excited?
They were very honored and very surprised because, like you said, we were up against 2 very worthy, I don't want to say competitors. No. I don't know the word to use, but
probably those in the
nominees.
Same category.
You're right.
We
were up against 2 very great nominees. I had not prepared anything. I didn't in any way, shape, or form think that we were going to win. And 30 seconds before, I looked at my husband and I said, "Oh my goodness, I think we might win this," and we did. Just a huge honor. When I look at my team and I see how hard they work, I was very excited that, to be able to tell them that.
And I was just a table away from your table, so I had a great look at your reaction, and it really was very, very special. And then, of course, another great thing is you went over and got a photo showing the award night.
Yeah.
Just a very special magic moment, wasn't it?
It was. It was very, very special. We were very honored to receive that award.
Now, for those who wish to be volunteers or to find out more information about the Table of Hope, how can they do so?
Anybody who would like to be involved or volunteer, they can go to our Facebook. It's under Table of Hope. And then, or you can contact me directly, and my phone number is 513-617-6447.
Well, you know, I don't want to tear you up, but you're a very special person to be able to give your heart, to give your soul, and to be so involved in a community that is feeding and helping so many. And we at Waycross recognize that, and we thank you so very much for what you're doing, because it is making an impact. And I'm sure everyone at the Coleraine Chamber of Commerce, as well as Waycross, would say very much richly deserved.
Thank you.
So congratulations to you.
I appreciate that.
This has been Community Forum. Thank you for joining us. Table of Hope. Find out more about what they're about, and maybe you'll become involved. I'm Kurt Radel from Waycross Community Media, Government Programming Coordinator. We'll see you next time.